I went. I saw a bunch of competitions in the last year or two, and I paid special attention because I had, um, I had some horses in the race. I had kids, competitors playing my instruments, and it was really interesting to see how they performed. And I had instruments being played in concerts at a number of festivals and stuff. It was a really nice season for me that way because I got to see the instruments do what they're supposed to do. It sort of operated under maximum conditions. Now, people, like it or not, the the field of classical guitar for the really, ambitious players is really competitive. In fact, it's almost like it's built around competitions now. That you don't just acquire an audience by being a good player. You have to apparently, compete for it by going to competitions. In some ways, there's no more unnatural musical act than going through a guitar competition. You go through all of these trials and various auditions and eliminations, and half the time you're playing just by yourself in a little room to some really scary people, and it's a demanding thing. The level of playing that is going on a technical level is just unbelievable. These kids are so good. They're starting out with so much capacity, so much headroom, and so much possibility, and they're driving their instruments very hard. So with guitars, I think that they need competitive guitars, and it's a different ambience. Now, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of pining for the good old days, and wishing that life, technology, our environment weren't going in the directions that it's going. But guess what? You can't wish the past back into existence, and so a lot of this is adjusting to that, to the newer needs of players. Now, steel string guitars, people want them all to sound like 1930s Martins or Gibsons. That's what people want. I don't know that much about steel string instruments, but I could say, well, what people want is guitars that sound like Hauser ones or Rodriguez or Torres, or Fleda. But it's not the way it is. People can love that and can bond with it and do a really wonderful thing with it, including me. I mean, I can really enjoy that. Enjoy it musically, enjoy it aesthetically, enjoy it as, the deep sense of, like, culture and artistry that can be embedded in those instruments. But now I don't think it's my role to just replicate that stuff. People do it. When I started doing it, like you asked about the Master Series, when I started doing it, I did it because it was familiar. That was my first motive, so that it would be easier to explain what I was doing. And it was in the marketplace. It would be easier to explain. Oh, this is a Hauser. Well, people know what that is. At least they think they do. It was easier to explain. Now, there's a lot of people who are still going to want that because it's familiar. Now I go trying to explain what I'm doing now, and it takes 15 minutes just to get the lid off the jar, really, And it's interesting to me because it actually helps me think about it. But it can be confusing to somebody who's not really, following all this stuff. I can't imagine why anybody would, except when they're trying to play the guitar. If they like the guitar, then it becomes more interesting to them.
Do you see the Master Series then as continuing to be a big part of your line, or do you feel yourself moving away from that?
I'm moving away from it, but I'm trying to perpetuate it at the same time, and this is a juggling operation. I really believe in it. I believe it's a valuable product line. Mm-hmm. It's something that gives people in the guitar field something that they wouldn't get otherwise, because An original, any one of the originals of the half a dozen or so instruments that I've produced are going to be 10 to 50 times more expensive than what I'm charging. I mean, you know, none of those guitars, you can't touch any of them for less than $50,000, I'd say. You know, and some of them are going up into the, you know, into the 100 or 200,000 range. At least they were. At least they were before the current crash and burn economy. But and I don't know how sales on that stuff goes. But it's an opportunity to at least get some of the flavor. And I can't claim that my Hauser guitar is as good as a Herman Hauser the One. I wouldn't even think of that. But there's some of the flavor there. Same thing with the fleta. The fleta, I've owned a couple of fletas, and the ones that I make are pretty. They've got the feel. You know, they've got a lot of the stuff in it. Now, a good fleta is really fantastic, and I won't put my guitars in that role, but there's some of the flavor there. And yet, for my own self now, it's like the instruments that I'm doing are more gratifying to play for me. The Signature series, even the Performance series, are more satisfying to play. I find them more versatile, and I'm getting the same response from the public and from players, from good players who are buying them, enjoying them, performing, recording with them, and keeping them for a long time, usually. So, you know, it means that I must be doing something right. And I'm not the only one who likes these guitars. Other people like them too. Now, you know, I'm at the point now where if I wanted to, I probably could just kind of just go back to working by myself. And I probably could make a living at it. Just, I couldn't when I started. It was really hard. But now I probably could. And you know what? You make a dozen guitars a year or something. And it's fun because the workshop's really fun and the designs are really fun. It's not a headache like running a business. But then, you know, it's like it slows down. It really slows down. The way things are going now, they still are moving. And so working with a team, but working on new designs, I feel that I and my team are actually helping to shape the future of the guitar. Because we're affecting people, you know, young people especially, who are buying the instruments, playing on them, growing on them. In a lot of ways, for me, it's more interesting to sell a guitar to a young, you know, hotshot, to a young guy who's just really gung-ho and really trying and really playing. Well, even if they're not a hotshot, even if it's just really getting started, you know, that is really interesting. It's because then the instrument becomes a part of their growth. When you sell something to an established player, it's flattering, and it's great to hear your instruments played by really, you know, matured and, you know, inspirational players. That's really great, and I love it when that happens. And I'm grateful when that happens. And at the same time, seeing young people pick them up and saying, where's this guy going? We don't know. You know, what's he going to do with the instrument? What's he going to do with the repertoire? What's he going to do with technique? What's he going to do in performance and charisma? And it's really fun to be a part of that.